Coming up on our Finding Better podcast, I have Chris Mitchell joining me. Chris is a late diagnosed autistic adult, which means he wasn't diagnosed with autism until later in life. And he's amazing. He's got a vision disability, he's got a physical disability, and he's got autism. And he is all about defining yourself and not letting other people define you. And he teaches people how to find their authentic self. It's just amazing. It's all about self-confidence and it's all about living life and moving forward. Please join me. You're going to be inspired. Share this, subscribe. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And sometimes the best way to success is to copy it. And that's why we're here. We are here kind of as your mentor podcast to share our own real life experiences on what we've done in our own lives to find better. And maybe you can apply some of those life lessons and wisdom to your own life. Now, today I have a great guest. I am really excited. Chris Mitchell is with me, and Chris is also known as the Confident Autistic. He's a late diagnosed autistic adult. He's going to talk about this. And he wrote a book that's called Success Starts with Self-Confidence. Okay, pretty amazing. And he also has a podcast called Your Confident Autistic Life. Chris Mitchell, welcome to Finding Better. I am so honored that you're here.
Well, thank you so very much. And that introduction has made my head so large. I'm hoping these headphones will stay on during the entire interview.
No, no, it's awesome. It's amazing because we're here to share
Right,
experiences, right? And
right.
autism is such a big part of our world. And autistics are such a big part of our world, and we're learning
Yes,
so much more about it as
yes,
time
sir.
goes on.
Every day.
I just want to share a couple more things with my audience,
Okay,
with regard to you. Chris believes that success is possible when you have self-confidence. And one of the things we're going to talk about is how to build that muscle of self-confidence, because that is a really hard muscle to build. And learning from Chris is going to be amazing. And, as a person with multiple disabilities, he's got a vision disability, he's got a physical disability, and he has autism. There's not very many people in the world that have those things, right? All
I'm a
of them.
unicorn.
Yeah, you're a unicorn. You're a unicorn. And Chris is here to share his experiences and how he does not allow his disabilities to define who he is. That is so cool. And he's here to share that we can all do the same. So, Chris, all right, start with a little bit of your journey. You are a late diagnosed autistic adult.
Right.
What does that
You
mean?
got that.
Yeah. What does that mean? And how did you learn about that? And what did you do?
All right. Late diagnosed autistic adult basically means you were not diagnosed as autistic until later in life because most
Yeah,
people are diagnosed when they're young,
right.
probably anywhere from 2, 4 years, six, early grade school, even before grade school, before preschool in some cases.
Especially
And
these days, right? Especially
excuse
these
me?
days.
Yeah, especially
Especially
these
these
days,
days.
yes.
Yeah.
However, I'm an old dinosaur. I'm, I'm in my 50s. So
Oh,
so
I won't tell you how old I am.
so when I was young, the definition of autism was very narrow. And
Right.
over the
Right.
years, it had become a spectrum. Back in the 70s, this is my interpretation. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, nor on this podcast, is basically what we would call very low functioning autism, which some in the autism community find that offensive, but basically means people who are nonverbal, maybe more aggressive, physically aggressive, a lot of antisocial behaviors and all. And
Hmm.
that was what we labeled, and I hate the word label too, but we won't
Yeah.
go into that right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
People being autistic back in the 70s. But we learned
Mhm.
over time it's much larger than just a narrow area. It's a spectrum now. And there's so many people on the spectrum, and it's a much wider classification to be diagnosed with autism. So, no, I did not develop autism. You're either born with it or you're not. And for
Got it.
me, I was not diagnosed till I was later in my life. And I'll tell you how that happened.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, my great nephew, he was about 4 at the time, came over and spent some time at our house while his mom drove her school bus. He, like I said, he was 4 at the time, so he couldn't go. Now, he had been diagnosed with autism, and his autism is different than mine. There's a saying in the autism community: you meet one autistic person, you met one autistic person. It's very true. So I did a lot of research on autism so we can learn how to communicate with him and serve him, so he'll be comfortable in our home and we would understand what he is going through, since he was not able to verbalize some of the emotions and feelings he was having, and his behavior seemed a little bit, I don't want to say inappropriate because they're appropriate for him, but a lot of people say they're
Right.
inappropriate for his age. And as I started studying it and observing him, I went, whoa, I did that when I was young. Whoa, I
Oh,
still do that
whoa.
today. I still have meltdowns. I still have fits. And I don't go more into it. And I've always had problem with sound. I never really realized it, but I always walked around, which is dangerous to do, with headphones on while walking
Yeah.
around the streets of a city and crossing
Yeah.
streets with my headphones blaring with music and all.
Yeah.
And I was really into radio. So I thought, well, I just really love music and radio. That's fine. It turns out I've been doing that to block out all that sensory noise from the outside world that would disorient me or confuse me. So I went to, and it was getting
Oh.
worse. My wife has stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So she's home all the time now.
Oh. Yeah.
And she has a TV on 24 hours a day. It helps distract her from the pain. I don't begrudge her for that. But the 24-hour television, oh, I like to break that thing and get out of the house. I hate TV. It's too much noise, too much input
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
So I went to my
Yeah.
doctor and I
Yeah.
told my doctor all these things. And at this point, I was suspecting I was on the spectrum. But I did not bring that word up to my doctor. She said, oh, that's not uncommon for somebody who's on the spectrum. As if, hasn't someone diagnosed you with that yet? Didn't you know this? So 6 months later, I went
Oh,
back to my doctor,
wow.
trying to figure out if she meant spectrum being ADHD or autism, because some people consider
Yeah.
ADHD part of the spectrum, some don't. And she said, you need to find someone who can help you figure out how your brain works. So we got me a counselor. We started working with him. He connected me with a psychologist who did an assessment on me and confirmed my suspicions of autism. And that's how we got to where we are today.
Wow. So you started your journey with your great nephew, right?
Right.
And I mean, and you started your journey. I mean, I'll call it a little bit of a mission of love, right?
Hmm.
So that you could
Yes.
learn about him and you can understand how to deal with him and
Hmm.
what how you could relate to him,
Hmm.
right? Which of itself is awesome. But then as you were learning, you were like, whoa, wait. Huh? That's me. I'm doing
Yeah.
that. I'm doing that too, right? And then you eventually got it professionally diagnosed.
Right.
And what were the feelings you went through at that time? Were you happy that you discovered this, or were you were you devastated, or what were the emotions that you went through? I mean,
Well,
there's a whole spectrum of those too, right?
yes, there are. Yeah. So, in full disclosure,
Hmm.
I was diagnosed June 19th. I received my diagnosis. I was assessed on June 13th. I was diagnosed on June 19th, 2024. So it's been, at the time of the taping, a little less than 3 months. So it's
You've only
just
been diagnosed 3 months ago?
yes.
Whoa, wow. Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
still going through the emotions.
No kidding. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So I'm going through the emotions. Now, in the autism community, there's like three symbols that have been used. It's the puzzle piece. It's the
Okay.
infinity loop, which is like two circles that kind of crisscross in the center. And
Okay.
I've not seen this one, but I heard about it. A multicolored butterfly is also used. I've not seen that myself, but I've read about it. Now,
I have not seen that.
a
Yeah,
lot of
I haven't
people,
seen. Yeah.
yeah, I haven't seen it either. I would love to. I'm going to go Google it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people don't like the puzzle piece because of the fact some see that as it's saying we autism is a puzzle that we got to figure out. It has some negative connotations in it. There's probably more to it, but we'll just leave it at that at the moment. When
Hmm.
I got my diagnosis, the puzzle piece resonated with me because to me that diagnosis was the piece that made everything in my life make sense to me, why I behaved the
Okay.
way I did,
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
had trouble with social
Yeah.
interactions, why I have social anxiety, why I don't like noise, why whenever we would travel to see my family, and my dad's side of the family, a large side of the family, large family, I got really anxious because there's so many people and noises going around me. It all made sense to me at that moment. So yes, I
Wow.
felt relieved at the same time and a feeling of guilt. Like I was like, yes, I am on the spectrum. This makes sense. And then guilt, like, why would somebody want to celebrate being diagnosed with autism? I mean, because of
Yeah.
the stigma that we have in our society. So it was a moment of joy and yet a moment of why am I celebrating this? And then I realized I'm celebrating it because I know who I authentically am, and I'm now going to live the rest of my life, but proud of my autism. I don't know how well it picks up on the camera, but on my baseball cap, I have a little autism
The
awareness
infinity. Yeah.
pin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good for
when
you.
I'm out in public, I have a couple of shirts I like wearing. One has the word autism upside down with a different way of seeing things on it. And my favorite shirt, which is not doing what I wanted to do. I don't like small talk. I don't like people walking up to me starting a conversation. It
Yeah.
makes me anxious. So I got a t-shirt that says, "You read my shirt. That's enough social interaction for one day." Now that's supposed to discourage people from talking to me. I've had
Yeah.
more people walk up to me and say, "I love your shirt."
Yeah. Can we talk about it? Where'd you get it? Did you design it?
So it's not working the way I was hoping the shirt would work, but it was
That's
a nice
awesome.
try.
That's awesome. That's
So if you
awesome.
want to have social interaction with people and you
Yeah.
don't know how to start a conversation, get one of those shirts. It works.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I want you to clear your mind, and I don't want you to think of an elephant.
Yeah. 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 Yes, exactly.
That is so funny. That is awesome.
And I
So,
have a little needle ball that I have with me most of the time. You can see it on the camera. These are cool. I got them at Walmart, and I take this everywhere
yeah,
I go. And I really don't care if people kind of look at me weird, because when you're playing with it, some people think, "Oh, he's just doing some hand exercises,
yeah,
physical
yeah,
therapy." But actually, he's keeping me calm during situations and when I'm feeling anxious. So,
yeah.
it's one of the ways that I stem. Stemming is self stimulation activity to kind of help people autism regulate ourselves. But everyone does STEM, but people in autism, we're better at it because we do it more frequently.
Got it. Got it. Got it. All right. So, I want to talk about two things
Sure.
moving forward. The first one
Yes.
is I want to talk about um, the that self-confidence,
Yes.
right? Building that self-confidence. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I want to talk about is people like me,
Yes.
right? And any words of advice, of encouragement, of when we find ourselves with someone with autism,
Hmm.
what do we do, and what are some things, that best practices on what we should do, and some things that we shouldn't do. But before we do that, let's talk about
Okay.
self-confidence, because
Let's do that.
self-confidence is it's very, very hard,
Yes, it
because
is.
if you don't have self-confidence, you start in a position of fear, right? I mean,
Right.
it's one of the opposites of self-confidence, is self-doubt.
Hmm.
And
You read my mind.
right, and it becomes it starts in a position of fear, and and breaking through that barrier, that whether it's real or not real, is that first step. So uh, help us understand um, your wisdom when it comes to building self-confidence.
I did write a book, Success Starts with Self Confidence, the 10 steps to
Hmm.
discover, develop, and grow your confidence as a neurodivergent and for everybody else. And neurodivergent are people who have autism, ADHD, OCD, Tourette's, those kind of diagnoses.
And what's
And
what's the name of the book again? I
success
know.
starts with self confidence. 10 Steps to Discover, Develop, and Grow Your Confidence as a Neurodivergent and for Everybody Else is the
Got
title
it.
of the book.
Okay.
And
Okay.
also, and so it's for everybody, but it's kind of written from the angle of being neurodivergent and all. And I was working on this while I was going through the suspecting and self-identifying as autistic before I had my diagnosis, because about 20 years ago, I had been diagnosed with ADHD. So I have what some call AUDHD, autism and ADHD, which 10 years ago it was possible to have both. Before that, because of the way they viewed the spectrum, you could not have both. And now for the last 10 years or so, you can have both. But let's get back to the self-confidence. The reason I
Right.
wrote that book is I look back at my life, like I said earlier, I'm a dinosaur, and I look back and thought all the things that I've been successful. Why was I successful? Because I was self-confident. And all the things that I've fallen short in or did not achieve, why didn't I do them? Because of my level of self-confidence. Self-confidence to me is the key to everything. If you have confidence, you're going to excel in life. If you don't have confidence, you're not going to excel in life. Did you know that 86% of people, does not matter your race, your color, your ethnicity, your income, your sexual orientation, whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, disabled or not, 86% across the board struggle with self-confidence
Hmm.
to some level. And this is why I wanted to write the book, because I don't want someone to get to my age in life and have and look back and say there's so many opportunities that I missed because I did not have self-confidence. So what we do in the book, we break it down to 10 steps. And the first step is self-acceptance and self-love. And if
Hmm.
you do not accept yourself for who you are, you're not going to like yourself that much, and
Amen.
you're not going to have the confidence to believe in yourself because you don't see yourself as likable. So we
No
work on
question.
liking ourselves and accepting who we are. There's a beautiful poem out there. I call it a poem, but it doesn't really rhyme, but I think it's called a poem. I don't know. I hated poetry in school. I hated a lot of things in school. That was one that I really hated. It's by Virginia Satir, and she was a I think psychologist, a psychiatrist back in the early 1900s, and she wrote this what turns out to be a beautiful poem called I Am Me to a 13-year-old girl she was counseling who had a lot of questions about who she was. And in that, she mentions that we're all wonderful people. We have wonderful parts of ourselves, and anything we don't like about ourselves, we can change. That's an important thing. So when you are starting to have self-love, there's certain parts about you that you don't love that much. Maybe that you struggle with drinking or struggle with you know, smoking or whatever. Those you can change. Because when I was in ninth grade, I got kicked out of school for bad behavior, and I wound up in a special education program for kids with bad behavior. And up until this point, every time I got in trouble, my parents would say, I'm so ashamed of you. You're such a bad kid. And they were loving
Yeah.
parents. But this teacher, whenever any of us misbehaved, her name was Mrs. Lyons, would say, I like you. I don't like your behavior. Your
Yeah.
behaviors and your
Yep.
addictions
Yep.
do not have
Yep.
to define who you are.
That's
You
right.
can change those.
That's
Don't
right.
let that limit you.
And um you can change just about everything. And um and I often say, and folks who have heard who follow me are probably sick of hearing this, that your life is the product of the decisions and choices you've made.
Oh, yes.
And people sometimes people say, well, I couldn't choose my parents. Okay, well, good. I get that. Okay, so put it this way. Your life in the future is going to be the product of the choices and decisions you make from now on. Do you agree with that? And of course, everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
But the thing, one of my favorite songs in the entire world is from the late great Whitney Houston,
Mhm.
and it's called "The Greatest Love of All."
Yes. Beautiful
Learning
artists.
to, yeah, learning to love yourself. It is the greatest love of all, and it is so true. So you nailed it on that first step. Um, and so we don't have time to go through all the
No,
10
we don't.
steps,
And if we did, nobody
but
would buy the book.
yeah, well, that too. But give us one more. Give us one more. Give us one more best shot.
Another thing that we do talk about in the book, and this is not step number two, this is further in the book, is
Yep, yep, yep.
self-advocacy. You have to stand up for what you need in life, because whether you're a person with a disability or multiple disabilities like myself, we all need to stand up for ourselves. I mean, it could be, wanting or wanting to have more respect at work, or more respect in you. Not that I want to be a marriage counselor. I'm not, but more respect in your relationship, or how people treat you, or you you bought a first class ticket on an airplane and they want to put you in coach. You got to know how to advocate for your rights and for what you need in a fair and decent way, and be able to have the confidence to say, this is who I am, this is what I deserve, this is how you need to make this right. I bought a first class ticket, yeah, me in coach. Why did I pay for first class? You're putting me in coach. Let's try to get me in first class, or what free stuff can you give to me? So you
Yeah,
got to know how
yeah.
to self-advocate for yourself. And the most important thing you can do for self-confidence is, and this is step 10, so
Okay.
you want to build up to it, is
Wonderful.
stepping outside of your comfort zone, because that's where success is found. Not found in our comfort zones.
Totally.
When we push
Totally.
ourselves and we achieve some success, we're going to feel great. The dopamine, the endorphin, all that good stuff starts flowing in your body, and that's going to give you confidence to do more in your life.
Wonderful. That's amazing. That is amazing, Chris. Because, I will say that uh, with my experience, sometimes there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Hmm.
And that is a line you don't want to cross. And you brought up the airline
Yeah.
situation. I just have a quick story. So one day my son's flight, which had a layover in Los Angeles, the layover, all the computers in the company shut down.
Hmm.
And so he was stuck in Los Angeles, and he had an 8:30 meeting that he had to attend at Amazon the next morning. And so he calls me up, just panicked. He says, "Dad, they can't get me home in time for my meeting." And I said, "Okay, are you standing in the customer service line?" He goes, "Yes, I am." I said, "Here's what you do. When you get to the person who's going to be helping you, tell them, I am so sorry that you're having to go through all this.
Hmm.
The only people that have it worse than the people on this side of the counter is you guys on that side of the counter."
Hmm.
And I said, "And mean it,
Yeah.
right? Don't just be, don't manipulate the situation." And
Yeah.
so um, I said, and just ask, I know, is there any way you can get me back to Seattle for my 8:30 meeting tomorrow morning at Amazon? And so the lady just looked at him, and she's like, "Let me see what I can do." Everybody before that was told, sorry, 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 sorry. And he
Hmm.
says, if you have to put me through a layover in Germany, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and so 10 minutes later, she says, "Okay, I got it." And he says, "What?" She says, you're going to Dallas, then you're going to Minneapolis, then you're going to Seattle, and you're going to make your meeting. And I mean, it's and so he calls me up. He says, "Dad, she got me there. What
Hmm.
what happened?" I said, "You were nice.
Hmm.
You were nice to her, right? And you were humble, and you weren't like everybody else. And being nice, and making sure that you don't cross that line into arrogance and just being mean and frustrated." So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that's a way off tangent or not, but I thought
But
I thought I'd
then
bring
bring up
that
2
up.
points. 2 points.
Yeah.
One, don't be like Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles at the car rental counter. That will get you nowhere.
Okay. Everybody, folks who
He's
are folks who are Chris's and my age can understand. It's called Planes, Trains, and
an
Automobiles
automobiles. It's a
with
great
Steve
movie.
Martin.
It's hilarious.
It's
The
a
car rental
classic.
scene is
It's a classic.
hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Okay,
is
so
when Steve Martin read the script, that's what made him sign on to do it. That scene right
oh,
there.
is
He
that
said, "I
right? That
loved
one
it."
scene.
Number
All right,
two,
what's this?
I used to
Yeah,
work in customer service. My wife did as well. And
yeah.
the first thing you do whenever you call into customer service is be nice to them, because the problem you're having is not with that rep,
That's
maybe with the
right.
company,
That's right.
and it may be
That's
your
right.
own fault too.
That's right. That's
So
right.
what I do on every single call, and it floors every rep I do this, because they ask me, how am I doing today? I say, I'm doing fine. How are you doing today? It floors them, because no customer asks them how they're doing. And
Yeah.
then there
Yeah.
now you got them on your side to be your ally to help you get what you're advocating for.
Yeah.
Just
It's
by
it's
asking that
amazing.
one simple question.
That's
How are you
amazing.
doing today?
And it's so funny because people think the meaner they are, the more frustrated, the more action they're going to
Mhm.
get. And it's the exact opposite. It's the exact
The
opposite. All
opposite,
right.
right?
So, yeah,
I know we're a
yeah,
little bit off topic, but it's invaluable
yeah.
information that
It
your
is. It's
your
totally
audience
valuable.
can use to find a better way to do things in life. See,
That's
we worked into the
exactly
title
right.
of the show.
It's exactly right. It's all about love, folks. It's all about love. All right. So, okay. So let's talk about that the second part, which I just lost. What was the other thing
Me,
I wanted
I
to
did
talk
too.
about? Well, we're going to figure it out. We talked about building the self-confidence. Oh,
Right.
and importantly, very importantly, best practices and worst practices to avoid, right?
Oh, when you
Because
interrupt with somebody who's
okay, so
autistic.
yeah, so okay, did I just
Yes.
do that?
Did
I
you do
did.
what?
Did I just interrupt you?
No, 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 no. You did
Okay,
not.
okay, okay, good, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my favorite shows of all time is
Uh,
this is going to sound kind of odd, but it's a Korean soap opera, and it's
okay.
called Extraordinary Attorney Woo.
Okay.
And the whole story is about an autistic attorney
I have
and
to check.
her
I've never heard
journey.
of this. I have to check it out.
It's amazing. It's on Netflix. It's called
Uh,
Extraordinary Attorney Woo. And
okay.
the actress, her name is Park Yoon Bin, is now my favorite actress in the whole
Mm-hmm.
world. My favorite actor is Denzel Washington, but my
Mm-hmm.
favorite actress now is this young woman. And she and it's a series of episodes that go through her journey as an autistic attorney, but also the journey of all the people around her,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how they deal with her, and how the progression, if you will, of how they come to realize, wow, she is really extraordinary. And she won Best Actress for, I think, the Korean equivalent of the Academy Awards, and just all these accolades. But it was this series, on autism. So with that, what are some of the best practices?
All right. First of all, I don't know if that's based on reality or not, that show.
I don't either. I don't either.
But
But
there is
yeah,
a autistic lawyer that practices here in the United States. Her name is Haley Moss. I believe she's based in Florida. I've had her on one of my previous podcasts as a guest.
cool.
So
Yeah,
so
and the big message to my bringing that up
mhm,
is that it became a giant success, and
mhm,
by that standard, it opened a lot of people's eyes.
yes.
Right? I mean, they're making more and more uh, awareness around autism. There's a movie called The Accountant that Ben
Mhm,
Affleck is in, and it's just amazing. It's amazing. But anyway, with that and with that awareness and people wanting to grow their awareness, what do
mhm.
we do? What don't we do?
Okay, well, I'm not a spokesperson for the autism
No,
community,
in
but I
your
will share
experience,
with
in your
you
experience,
in my
yeah.
own experience is
Hmm.
one. And I've had this happen not only because of my autism, but because of my visual impairment and my physical disability. Had a doctor. He was my doctor for one day only because he did this. My wife was with me, and he kept asking her, "Can he understand me? Can he do this? Can he do
Oh
that?"
boy.
Talk
Oh.
directly to the person who has a
Okay.
disability, whether it be autism,
Wonderful.
hearing impairment, visually impaired, does not matter. Talk to them as if you would talk to anybody else. Don't talk as if they're not in the room. Don't do that, because after he did that, I said, you know what? Not only can I understand you, but I'm also firing you. What
Good
I
for
told
you.
him.
Good for you.
No, you don't do that. You treat the person with autism just like you would treat anyone else. And if they
Mhm.
do have a stimming habit, like I play with this ball all the time, try not to let it distract you. Try not to say anything about it, because some people who are on the spectrum get a little bit self-conscious about that, because we try to fit in with the rest of the world because the majority of the world is neurotypical. They don't have autism, and we do, and we try to fit in. So try not to stare or make inappropriate comments and on this. Accept them for who they are, and understand they may see and view the world like the T-shirt I mentioned earlier, seeing the world differently and interacting with it differently. There are certain things that we can bring to the table by looking at things differently. We can bring a different perspective to how you view a situation or problem. And everyone's voice is valued in this world, and it should be valued
Absolutely.
because everyone has something to contribute to the world. So just treat them like a human being, like you would anyone else, and be patient with them and understand. And if they don't make eye contact with you, because for me I don't like eye contact. I hate it and all, so
Hmm.
I don't do that. It's not a sign of disrespect if someone's not making eye contact with you. You think, well, that person doesn't really care to connect with me. You're assuming that on the basis of you being neurotypical, because for neurotypical people eye contact is important. To
Right.
autistics it's not important or makes us uncomfortable. And give the person the benefit of the doubt. If you don't know they're autistic, you don't need to go and ask them because that can be offensive to them. But you can say, maybe that person's not making eye contact with me because they are autistic, but they still want to be friends with me, want to interact with me. They just do it differently, and just accept it instead of judging them and saying, well, they don't do it the way I do it, then they're doing it wrong. Because there's no right or wrong way. Well, with the exception of following laws that we have in our society, there's no right or wrong way to interact with another single person. We all have our own unique ways. And think of autism like a culture of its own. And you go to North Korea or China or any Asian country. And I'm not trying to pick on Asians, okay? Don't, any
Hmm.
foreign country. The
Right.
cultures are different, and what we
Totally.
feel is acceptable here may not be there. Like in Japan, showing respect is bowing. We don't do that here, but in Japan, it's acceptable. Would you like a Japanese person to say to you, "Well, you're not being respectful because you did not bow"? No, it's your culture not to bow. Just like in the autism community, for some of us, not making eye contact is part of our culture. Respect that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, on episode 55 of our Finding Better podcast, I had a friend of mine, Jonathan Stutz, and he recently wrote a book called Daily Practices of Inclusive Leaders. And, I love the word inclusive, and because it's all about belonging. It's about belonging and making people belong. And and a big part of it is everybody's different. Everybody's different. And especially um, uh, in here, right?
In your mind, yeah.
But we're so visually oriented at looking at the physical aspect of who we are that we make all these assumptions, when in fact it's all in here. It's all in here, and understanding that we're all different. We all come from have different backgrounds, and embracing people for who they are, and figuring out, not just making the people that you can relate to feel like they belong, but everybody in the room,
Mhm.
everybody in the room. And so this is something that uh, I'm personally working on a lot, because you're comfortable with people who are like you,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's just nature. It's nature. But those pieces of advice are amazing, are amazing. Um, so with that, is there anything else that you want to share at this point? Because I'd
Well,
love
I
to
do.
have you back at some point in time.
I would love to come back. My podcast is called Your Confident Autistic Life. I'm not sure when this is dropping, but my podcast will be premiering October of 2024. So it's going to be
Okay.
on all the popular podcast player platforms, on my YouTube channel, which here's something easy to remember, called The Confident Autistic. That's my YouTube channel. Has a lot of great videos to help people who are on the spectrum understand it better, and those who are not,
Wonderful.
maybe have a loved one, a family member, friend, co-worker, whatever. You can gain a lot of insight from somebody who is autistic, about what the autistic world is like, and all. And the purpose of the videos is to help empower people who are on the spectrum to have confidence to live comfortably and confidently as a fully autistic. Because what we do in our community is called masking. We put on these masks and we play these roles so we can fit in with the neurotypical people, um, and we lose who our true identity is. So I really would like to encourage people who are autistic to embrace their true identity, the authentic selves, so they can be authentically who they are and help the world accept them for who they are and realize they're a valuable part of our society. Autistic people are, and we can bring a lot of
Absolutely.
wonderful things to them. And I also am starting up a coaching business for people who are autistic who want to discover, develop, and grow their self confidence. And you can find
Wonderful.
all of this at my website, theconfidentautistic.com.
theconfidentautistic.com.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay. Okay. So folks, theconfidentautistic.com.
Right.
Go check it out. This has been amazing, Chris. This has been amazing. Thank you for joining us. Your journey, holy cow, you just learned earlier this year that
Yes. A few months ago.
you're on the spectrum. Wow, that's amazing. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your experiences, because sharing your experiences is only going to make us better. Um, as long as we don't screw it up.
That's
But
right. And
that's
if I
life,
can,
right? That's life.
right. And if
Yeah.
I can add one thing and real quickly, I have a
Yeah.
free gift for your audience because your audience are wonderful people. You go to my website, you can get 31 affirmations for your confident autistic life that's written for people who are autistic, but anybody could use affirmations. It's part of self-care
Oh,
to help you feel more
absolutely.
confident. So it's a free resource. Get it from my website, theconfidentautistic.com.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Go there, folks. Go there. So with that, Chris, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
with me today. All of you out there, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Share this. Share this, because I mean, this is the kind of thing um, that needs to be shared, right? It's all about making the world better, and it's all about love. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.